Paul, you're coming off the back of 2 wins, which is great because before that you didn't actually have any more wins. But so it was a difficult start for the club. Now you're beginning to get into your stride, and obviously there's an element of luck in there as well. Newton Stewart, you had to come from behind, of course, last week, but you got the full points.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough place to go. There's no doubt. I mean, it's a 4 hour journey for us in the bus. You know, guys, it takes a bit to shake them, to shake the legs off. The match itself was, as I say, they're a really strong outfit. Their backs are, are quite exceptional. Actually, I was really impressed with them. And I mean, it'll not be long before they get wins. As it was, we were coming off the back of a good win the week before. They chose to go up the hill into the wind. We scored pretty much first 5 minutes, and it did look like we would kick on. We had forwards dominance. Guys were playing well. And then, for some explained reason, we have had these dips in the last couple of games. Our lows were even lower than normal. We kind of suddenly, a few penalties, started to compound errors. We dropped off the pace of the game. Line speed was poor. And then all of a sudden, they don't take much invitation. Before we knew it, they'd rattled in 4 tries going up the hill. Fortunately, they only kicked one of them. And we were suddenly thinking, this isn't going to be our day. But we made some changes, in the first half just to try and, push things forward. Rafa Kraminski came off the bench. He's been really good for us coming out of the twos. And just put that bit of energy back in. And then James Thompson, we all know James is a classy player. Running 2 quick tries, I think 35th, and with the last play of the first half. So suddenly, you're turning and it's 22-21. Saying to the boys at half time, look, it's we're going to have to do it the hard way, but ultimately, it's within your gift. Let's see what we do. We did concede a try early doors, and then we just kept pushing. The guys. Well, for me, I think that the biggest difference this year, and it was one of the key things I said coming on as coach, was we need to get the twos up and running again. Unfortunately, last season when it dropped away, you suddenly go from a pool of 40 players to probably 21, 22 some weeks, and suddenly guys get relaxed in positions. They're not pushing themselves. They know they're pretty comfortable. So you need that second team really driving them forward, and that's what we've had already. David Eagleton's doing a great job with them, and the guys that have come in, we had Carl Gullen was on the bench, got good game time on Saturday. Cam Wills is now starting, coming out the twos, playing really well. As I say, Rafa Kraminski off the bench, and I think it's giving guys the next level. They just know they need to perform. Jack Dalrymple, unfortunately, has found himself on the bench the last few weeks just because of those performances. Now, he came up, he got a starting jersey due to guys, Aidan Rosie being away at the weekend, got a try, played out his skin, so they're taking their opportunities. But we pushed on. James got his hat-trick try, kind of brought us back into the game. And then we soaked up pressure, for a good while, and then really it was just, I think it was just desire. I'll be really honest. When you've got guys like Rory Hindhoff and that who made, I think at one point I counted 4 tackles on the bounce Rory made on our try line. He's just hungrier than anybody else. That's all I can put it down to now. That kind of leads on. It's infectious and guys see that. And all we did, Rory turned a boy over in our 22. Suddenly we're working up the pitch, and we just kept hammering the door. I think we got turned over. Rory charged the kick down. And then eventually, after about 5 or 6 breaches, it was Captain Ali Grieve went over the line at last play of the game. So it's really one of those ones. It's great to win in that fashion. We've been on the wrong side of them a few times.
I was going to say, yes, it's nice when it happens, but
yeah.
Yes, you've had the other experience as well. But this is a very competitive league, isn't it, this National 2? And, Kirkcaldy at the top 4 out of 4. They've won by, I think, a point in one game, another 2 points by another. Probably, I think you just have to look at their points difference. It's 12 for top of the table. Those wins could easily have been losses. Kirkcaldy could actually be bottom of the table.
Yeah. I was saying this to the guys. We lost the first 3 games, and obviously it's a whole new coaching setup, a new coaching style. We're trying to play a different way of rugby, and we do have new personnel. So, yeah, it's hard because in the pre-season things went really well with some good results, and then you get in the league campaign and we're really kind of, everybody's buoyant. We're thinking this is going to be a good season for us. And we got up to Falkirk, which we knew would be tough first game. I think we're 14 all, 25 minutes in. We had a 4-on-2, should have scored, actually put the pass by and dropped the run 60 metres and score. And then within a minute, we lose Ewan Thompson to an MCL injury. And suddenly, the heads go down. We lose that game, fairly by a decent margin after that. And you're suddenly right, that's a little bit dent to it, but tough away game. You go into the next game, we have Stumel at home. Half time, we were right in the game. And I didn't see us losing. Suddenly, with the wind in our favour, going down the Screm Hill, suddenly we're compounding errors. We give them so many soft tries and we lose that. And then the same story, PL, turn 12-9 going into the wind up the hill, thinking, yeah, this is only going one way now, that 20-point hill. And I think maybe that's what the guys thought as well. But suddenly, we lose that game and you're not for 3, no points. When actually, the way it turns out now, we convert Stumel and we convert the PL game, we'd be sitting joint top. But I really think this is probably the most competitive league we've got. Every team's really strong. And if you don't turn up on the day, you're going to be on the end of a hiding. So it's, you have to have your wits about you every single week.
And nobody wants to go dropping down to National 3.
No. It takes a lot of work. What Colin done, to bring the teams up the league, I think was fantastic, and he's got us to a level where it is really, it's competitive stuff at a good level, and it attracts a kind of good interest in the club, and yeah, nobody wants to lose that, For us, we want to continue to keep building, but it gets tougher because the league does get more competitive, and already I think you're starting to see the filter down of players with the return of players to Prem 1. And that's great, I don't mind that. We want to have the best product out there. You want to have seeing the best players. And really, I want my players being exposed to these guys to see, actually, if I want to compete at a higher level, I want the club to be at a higher level. I need to do more than just turn up and train on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night. I need to take some personal responsibility as well. So, no, I think it's all good. And I think it'll really make for a pretty exciting season.
Because there's only 9 teams in it, which means there's only 16 games. You've played 5 already. There's only 11 to go.
I know. It's not one for the kind of the forwards, because you always think we're going to have these long winter months, but before you know it, this season will be gone, and suddenly the forwards will pack up their boots and it'll be the boys coming out for the sevens. It'll be it feels like it'll be a really quick season.
Now, at the start of the season, we looked at the squad and we were very impressed. Obviously, getting the Thompson brothers back was fantastic. Rory Hindhock, who's had great experience at Premiership level as well, who can pass on his knowledge. There's obviously the Aidan Rosies and Ali Grieve still going strong, and a bunch of others as well. So you think on paper, obviously, Berwick are really going to be up there competing for that one spot which will take you into National 1. But of course, injuries come as well, and all of a sudden, you're a bit threadbare.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because it was a real strange one for us. So at the end of last season, myself and Colin both decided we were stepping away, and it felt like the club needed a fresh voice. The boys needed some new ideas. I mean, I had 6 years as Colin's assistant. Colin, it felt like 30 years, but probably 13 years I think he done a fantastic job. But it did feel like they needed a new voice, and I agreed to step away. And then Guy approached me to come back, and I thought, right, I would do it, but everything has to change. I didn't need to get somebody. Me and Colin think very much the same about rugby. We played together since we were 12-year-old. We kind of have the way of looking at it. But I needed somebody who was going to completely shake things up and change and challenge me and set up that kind of challenge environment. And also in amateur rugby now, you can't have just 2 coaches. We found last year, both had busy jobs. Preparing given the amount of preparation that we'd need to do for training sessions and to get the guys to the level they want to, we couldn't do it. So that was where I came up with the idea of kind of the 4 coaches. And I'll be honest, I mean, we all know James is a great rugby player. I mean, there's no denying that, and certainly that was a big part of the attraction in bringing him back. But and I knew he'd be good at coach, but I mean, James is 24, and he already is shaping up as a very, very good assistant coach. I mean, he challenges me weekly. We have, good robust debates around what we should be doing. And he has great ideas, as to how he wants the lads to play. Helps with setting up sessions. So we have you know, we have James there, and then, you know, on the sidelines we also have Gareth Hill. You know, move back. Gareth does the skills and fitness, but you know, James and Ali are obviously playing on a Saturday, so Hilly's there, you know, on the side for me, and it does really work, you know, and Ali's got his experience, so I think as a coaching team it really does work. But it allows us to kind of prep for sessions more. You know, we'll put out messages on a Sunday. This is what I want to work on, and boys will fire the messages back in. This is what we could do. That's what, you know, we could look at this, and it's just kind of, it's just freshening things up loads, Stuart, and it is great. And you know, so you've got James back. Ewan obviously has benefited massively being in Prem 1. You know, the coaching under the likes of Bruce and that has really helped him. And losing him in the first game is massive, but he's never been away from training. He's still there. He's still putting his input in. We actually got some good news on him. He had a scan last week. It looks like just a grade 1. So he's champing at the bit. He had it strapped up and was running about this week asking when he could be back for selection. So I don't think he's far away. And then, I mean, as I said, Rory's a nuisance. He's a nuisance in training. He's just he would be one of those players I would hate to play against. He's just, you know, he is that good. And he, you know, he doesn't shirk anything. But I think there's also kind of unsung heroes in there as well. We've got back like Jack Williamson, just happened to move into the area. Jack previously played at Gala, can play anywhere across the front three, and it's great, just knows his rugby. You know, he gets on really well with the lads as well. He's fitted in, he's straight in there. That makes a big difference, and it's just that kind of, you get that bit of fortune sometimes as well. You know, it's either famine or feast with players into the area. So yeah, the squad is good, and as I say, the twos being there and guys really, you know, pushing on there. Suddenly we have selection is, I'll be honest, it's a nightmare. And this Tuesday we have an Aidan and Duncan back, and you know, Ewan chapping at the door as well. It'll be no different to the last couple of weeks.
You mentioned robust conversations between you and James, and I guess the more voices you have, the more robust it can get. Who actually has the final say? You are the head coach, after all. Can you say, well, yes, I hear what you're saying, but in fact, it's me, Paul Pringle, and I'm going to be selecting?
Well, it's probably something I learned from Kev Armstrong and Colin. It's probably in my professional work environment, I like all that kind of robust debate and things like that, but yeah, make no bones about it. And we have had these conversations already this season, where it's like, look, guys, I listen, I appreciate, and I take on board what you're saying, but ultimately, yeah, it's my decision, and this is what it is. And you know, the guys are great. They, I said that I brought us all together before the season. It was like, look, I've got broad shoulders. I'm not going to be offended. You can challenge me. I'm happy to have the debate. You know, let's create this kind of environment where we can have these discussions. Nobody will take a huff. It's all done for, it's all done for the benefit of the team. And it's working, and it's we're kind of applying it to the wider club as well. So we kind of done away with these first team head coach titles and things like that. So with the senior coaching team, it's for the firsts, the seconds as well. It's everybody's part of the same squad, and then it's about trying to kind of rebuild the connections with the minis and the middies. So Melly's been great, even though he's injured now, he still organises on a Sunday. The guys, there's 4 senior players need to go and help out with the minis every week, and it's just those kind of things, just to bring back that whole kind of club ethos and environment. It's it's looking at the bigger picture. So when the results weren't working for us, and it was still, and I was saying this to Guy, and it's like, look, it's what are we measuring success by? Is it just the first team's league position, or is it how the club's performing, what we're doing? We had a family fun day last week. Ali was brilliant. He organised the whole thing. There was 60, 70 kids in the morning running around with the seniors. It's things like that, that the second team up and running, their successes as much as, getting 5 points away to Newton Stewart.
And has anyone actually challenged you and won so far?
I'm sure it'll come, Stuart.
Not happened yet.
It's not happened yet, but I'm sure there'll be the day.
But you mentioned the club environment, and I was at the Berwick Club dinner, of course, and everybody is so close knit, aren't they? It's a very tight bunch, and they do put the work in, not just on the pitch and for the first team. It's right through the club, right down to the minis.
It's fantastic. There's so many unsung, heroes. There's people like Laura Smales, Dougie Hall and that behind. And, Stephen Gilchrist, these are people that put inordinate amount of time into the club, all volunteer basis. And I know every club has them, but I mean, I first joined the club at 12-year-old. You had, Hilary Thompson behind the bar, and it was very much, it was a family club. And it's always stayed that way, and it's stayed tight-knit, but we're trying to bring more of that back. We had a real glut of guys that came through at the same time. Your Ewan Thompsons, your Ryan Wilsons, all these guys. And they were all a bit younger. Now they're kind of 25, 26, so suddenly there's other halves on the scene and there's a few little ones running around. And we're trying to make it that real environment where everybody's in the clubhouse afterwards, the kids can run about and things like that. So it's a whole kind of big sweeping change we're trying to make just to enhance it so it's better for all.
I know geographically, obviously, Berwick is stuck away. That trip to Newton Stewart must have been taking you ages for a start. The sad part, in a way, is that there's no border derbies for Berwick. We still call them border derbies. They're still a long way away. Your Langhams and your Peebles, obviously, who you were locking horns with last season. And, of course, back in the old days, Berwick used to be part of the Border League, and I know that was a personal choice for the club not to be part of the Border League at this moment. Hopefully, in the future, there'll be an opportunity to get back in again. But do you feel a bit more isolated at the moment, simply because there's no Peebles, and of course Langham are, I suppose, your nearest from down the way, and they're like 2 divisions away?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I came back 6 years ago, we had Duns in the same league.
Yeah.
And as a Eyemouth lad, the biggest rival we had was Duns. So, that was great. Unfortunately, kind of the way things have gone, there's a few leagues between us now. Probably better for us than it is for them. But so we have real crunch marks against the likes of Lasswade. That's been a real rivalry over the last 3-4
and
years.
always close, those games.
Yeah, geez, aye. I mean, probably last one was the one that's, probably been the most distance between us, but I'm pretty sure that we'll be back to the one-pointers when we go up there for the return leg. They're a strong outfit. So we have kind of built up many rivalries within the teams that we've now started to play, fairly regularly. But aye, nothing beats a border derby for me.
You've played in a few, haven't you?
Aye, absolutely, and there was no bigger games. Even just the pre-season friendly, like with Jed and things like that. And aspirationally, I would love to see the club back in the Border League. We played in the Border League at Berwick when I was coming through, and at Jed, they were huge games. And I just love the guys to have that kind of exposure, and especially, we have young lads in the twos now who've come out from the Colts now. In the last couple of years, it would be sporadic the amount of rugby they would get, and then when you did then bring them into the first team squad, they weren't ready for it because they hadn't been exposed to enough rugby. Whereas now with the twos kind of there, the likes of your Callum Sims and that, already he's 3-4 games into the twos, loving his rugby, and we're suddenly talking about him on a Tuesday night. These are guys we probably would have lost last year because it is a very hard age, 18. People tend to drift away. I would love to see these guys eventually getting exposed to, going up to the Green Yards or getting a game at Riverside on a Thursday night, something like that. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I remember a Border League final, it was the historic one because it was the first one ever played outside Scotland at Berwick at Scrimmerston on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night, Melrose and Gala, and there was well over 1,000 people there. So it shows you that the people want to watch matches like this, and it was a real privilege, I think, to see two great teams playing at Scrimmerston.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's long overdue. We've had initial discussions within the club. This season obviously wasn't right, a kind of rebuilding. We knew that there was going to be a lot of change. I would like to have the conversation, within the club, whether the club feel it's right or not.
Berwick as a club, of course, although you're not playing in the Border League, you're very much part of the Border League, and Fiona Skeen, of course, was president of the Border League. So the voice of Berwick is still being heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, people have to remember as well that, Berwick is located in England. There's no getting away from that. But there's a large portion of the team, reside in either your Eyemouth or your Duns or your Paxton, these areas. They are people who very much class ourselves as borderers. I mean, Colin always thought himself, he played youth rugby all the way through the borders. he was from Berwick, but he very much thought of himself as a borderer. So we genuinely believe ourselves as a border club. Though we have strong links to Northumberland as well, so we do have that kind of that real. I think it's quite a fortunate position to be in, but yeah, Borders Rugby's Borders Rugby, and yeah, we'll always feel part of that.
And you're talking of arrangements with Northumberland and stuff. You've got a great arrangement with Kelso Rugby Club.
Yeah, it has been. It's a tough one in this environment, and it's this season we've probably not had as much there. Angus Utterson's came down a couple of games, who is a great player, but they've not been without their injury issues as well. So it may come, but on the flip side of that, we've probably not had the requirement that we had last season. But it's still something I feel really strongly about, and it's too easy to become really siloed in your thinking, and it's like it's just our boys. But myself and Eck talked about this a lot last year, and it was, if two boys from Kelso coming down to form part of our match day squad in the ones frees up two boys to go to the twos, which mean we can then suddenly have a twos fixture. I'm all for that. And it develops those two Kelso lads, because ultimately we just want to see more players playing, and playing top level rugby. Angus has been great for us. He's only a young lad, but just his rugby IQ is fantastic. So getting these guys down, it gives our players as well a bit of an idea where they need to be and what they need to aspire to. So no, I'm a massive advocate of it. Myself and X still kind of exchange messages, most weeks about setting things up and whether there's opportunities for guys to come down. So yeah, it's not something I would rule out.
And of course, Angus was wearing the number 12 shirt against Ayr just a few days ago. You can't buy experience like that. Yeah,
it's great for Angus, because he genuinely is a really good lad as well. You sometimes get good players when they're not always off the pitch, but Angus just has got a great approach, and he just wants to play rugby. He would play. So last season there was many occasions he'd play for the Kelso Sharks on the Friday night, and then we'd rock up, have somebody drive him to Stirling the next day and pull on the shirt for us. Because he just wants to play rugby, and that to me is the kind of, it's something I use as a bit of a example to our lads as well. We talk about, sometimes there's a bit of almost a bit of snobbery about I'm not going down to the twos and things like that. I have made it very clear within Berwick, if you don't go down to the twos and you don't perform, you don't come back to the ones, because guys should just want to play rugby, and I also speak to our extended squad. It's like, you don't want to sit on the bench every week. You don't want to have 10 minutes and 20 minutes. If that happens for 2 weeks in a row, for me, you should be with the twos the next week. And it's not a punishment. We're giving you the opportunity to go develop more, and you should get 60, 70 minutes, and then that just keeps the cycle going, and it keeps things fresh as well. So yeah, it's an interesting way to look at these things.
And it's a bit of a worry at the moment. It's been a worry for many years, of course, keeping a second 15 going. And just this last weekend, we've seen both bowl matches scrapped because Gallow IM couldn't field a team. They've actually pulled out of the bowl now. And the same with Duns. Duns couldn't field a team against Earlston, which affects both of those clubs. But it also affects the teams that have a bunch of lads who want to play rugby, and if that happens too often, they disappear.
They do, yeah, absolutely. I hated training. I could never dress it up. I didn't like training anyway, but I trained because I wanted my reward on a Saturday, and that's the way most players look at it. Your Saturday is your reward, and if you're not getting that, then it's very hard to kind of be there knocking your pan in on a Tuesday, Thursday. Earlston's another one, so we know Cammy Hill really well. He played a couple of seasons at Berwick, great lad. So quite often, if they've not got a game or we've not got a game, and we can flip players between as well, we'll do that as well. I think we all have a bit of a sense of responsibility to get fixtures on and to try and help out where we can, and make sure that as many guys every weekend are getting rugby. And if sometimes that means a Berwick lad's pulling on an Earlston shirt or a Kelso lad's pulling on a Berwick shirt, that should be, that shouldn't be an issue, is the way I look at it.
And you mentioned Cammy Hill, of course, and I think he's done wonders along with other people at Earlston to turn the club around, because for 2 years they had some serious seriously bad results, and you know, a lot of people looking over the shoulder and thinking, "Gosh, are Ulster going to survive?" They've turned it round. The signings during the summer was unbelievable. Every other week there was new bodies coming in. There was like Cammy Scrappy from Selkirk, and there was Nathaniel from Selkirk. And there was boys coming in from Earlston High School as well, and they beat Duns, scoring 60 odd points, and said, well, we can now welcome back 10 players after that. I mean, it's a phenomenal thing for an East League team. So they've totally bucked the trend, but of course, you know, this isn't typical, sadly.
No, but Cammy has a great approach to rugby, you know, and he gets that and I think we need to remember this sometimes, it's an amateur game. For us, it's an amateur game, and you have to make it's something that's enjoyable for the guys. Yes, we all want to drive on and do as much as we can, but you know, Cammy's created a really good environment there. We played a kind of a mainly twos match against them in the pre-season. These guys came to, they were a very good team, well drilled, good ball runners. There was guys there from Jed and I think they were there predominantly just because they enjoyed the way they played rugby, they enjoyed the atmosphere, they enjoyed playing the camaraderie within the team. And that's really the secret. You know, we talked about, funny enough, we had the conversation at the club this season at the start. Like every club, we struggled with transport. Bus company we had folded, so it was getting a new bus company. And one of the things I was really passionate about is you need buses. You need to be on a bus, you can't be on cars. Ultimately, we need to remember that you need to make an away journey actually something that's enjoyable. Because to ask guys to go away 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, a 4-hour bus journey to Newton Stewart and 4 hours back at night, you can't, you know, you need to make it something that actually they've enjoyed their day as well. So no, I think as coaches we all need to remember that as well, that we might have our ambitions and the boys have their ambitions as well, but ultimately you don't put yourself through all that pain and work that you need to do unless it's something that you're enjoying.
And it's an interesting point because the likes of Highland, the Orkneys, and I mean, you've got to buy into the culture. Now, obviously, locally, as far as the Borders are concerned, particularly with border derbies, you know, every club is pretty much within about 20 minutes of each other, so they don't see that side of it. But it is a very important part, and I know there'll be some players playing locally who wouldn't even dream of going to a Berwick or a Highland or something like that because of the long journeys. I mean, they literally have to give up their whole day. And yes, it's a great camaraderie going up on the bus, but if you're coming off the back of a bad result, that's a hell of a long journey back too.
Yeah, I do remember them. So just a couple of seasons ago, we had the likes of, now was it Caithness in our league, so we were travelling to Thurso. I think the coaching staff probably enjoyed the trip a little bit more than the players, but we left. We had to leave on the Friday. We stayed over in Inverness on the Friday night on weather. He had fairly enjoyed his journey there, and then the journey the next day over that 2-hour drive probably wasn't quite so enjoyable for the coaching staff. But yeah, so you're asking them to give up Friday half days from work. We're overnight, and then I think we got home about 12 o'clock the Saturday night. You know, but I mean, that was once in a season for us. So, I mean, I take my hat off to your Orkney and your Highland. Even in our league, your Gordonians, you know. Gordonians will be coming down to us on Saturday. I mean, that must be 5-6 hours easy. You know, these guys are travelling, so yeah, let's hope that they're a little bit weary by the time they get to Scrim.
And they're the best Aberdeen side now, which is, I mean, I was just looking at the results, and clubs like Aberdeen Grammar, and it's sad to see some of these clubs coming out of the leagues. Aberdeen Grammar have been on free fall. I mean, it's only 2 or 3 seasons ago they were a Premiership club. They were absolutely thrashed by Dumfries at the weekend, and it's very sad to see that. So all of a sudden they come down, and teams like Gordonians are, taking their place.
Yeah, it's very hard to reverse the trend, you know. Berwick's been one of these clubs, we've kind of been up and down, and, you know, I remember back in my playing days, we were up at Prem 2, kind of semi-finals of Scottish Cup, you know, doing really well in the Kev Armstrong days, and then it doesn't take much, you know, when you can't recruit very well around your area and what have you, because it's quite hard to draw players into Scrim. It can suddenly be free fall, you know, so I have great sympathy for these clubs, but on the Gordonians front, they absolutely deserve that title as the best team up there, because, yeah, I mean, they came down to us just at the end of last season, and they're a pretty big, well-drilled outfit. I mean, I'm not sure what they eat up there, but they're some huge units.
Plenty of Aberdeen Angus, I'd imagine, in their diet. Let's talk a little bit now about the tackle laws and the other laws that have come in, because obviously any new law that comes in or any new interpretation of a law is going to be controversial, and this high tackle has caught a lot of clubs out. How do you work this out with the players themselves and the referees, of course?
Yeah, it is hard, and I get the whole move to try and make it very kind of black and white as a here's the height. There's no kind of the mitigation is around the punishment opposed to the penalty offence. Whereas, and I get all that, and I'm a, we as a coaching staff we've cut way down on our contact and training and all this sort of stuff. So I'm fully on board with it that we need to protect players, and we need to make sure as a product rugby that we're kind of taking away that dangerous element. So you don't want to see that kind of bolt upright tackle, kind of head on head type thing. So absolutely, it's right to rule those out, but with that, there also has to be, for me personally, I think we need to give our referees a certain amount of latitude. So, we need to trust in them that they can apply common sense. The difference between someday, a 10 kind of grabbing upright, never intending to put a tackle in and being brushed off, that being a penalty offence, to somebody coming in with a high shot, with the shoulder, you're kind of like, let's be a bit sensible about it. And on the flip side, for me personally, and I did have a bit of gripe about this week, we lost 6 players to lower leg injuries, and some of them, very serious. Nathan Melrose now is he'll be a year off his work if he can return at all. It's this type of thing. We're putting a lot of stress on the lower leg area now, because you're getting this chop tackle, which is fine. I mean, we're working on ourselves, but if it becomes a no arms chop tackle, you're starting to see guys, we've had obviously Nathan with a bad injury, Ewan Thompson had an MCL grade 1 first game of the season at Falkirk, which was a chop tackle, and we've seen in other games, repeat offenders with no arms through the game. So we actually are speaking to referees before the game, I'll be 100% honest, just asking for clarity about what they're looking for, how they'll enforce it. Now, it's been very kind of black and white the last 2 weeks. If it's up here, it's a penalty, and that's great. All I ask them to consider is, on the flip side, if it's down there and it's no arms, let's make sure that we're obviously sanctioning that as well. But I don't envy the task of trying to make rugby safer, because it's a contact sport. It is. It's just trying to find a kind of happy place, I think, is where it is. But we should trust in our referees, because genuinely these people know best in my mind, and I genuinely haven't seen any that don't apply that kind of common sense and want to let the game flow, but at the same time protect the players. So let's give them that little bit of trust as well.
And it's all about consistency as well. Every week we hear about referees that aren't consistent. It's very difficult, because again, it's their own interpretations ultimately at the end of the day.
It is, and we have to watch out as well, Stuart. There's becoming this thing where it's almost football-esque. So we've noticed the street smart teams already in this year. We went the first couple of games and we didn't get a penalty for a high tackle, despite numerous. You could go back over. Every team has VO now. We go back over it. We look at the kind of the analysis, and you're seeing these repeat. And the difference was the teams that were getting them, the 2-3 players round about, are all shouting the minute that shot's made. And suddenly it attracts the referee's attention, and there it's getting picked up. Now, we're not doing that. Now, are we wrong because we're not kind of street smart enough, or do we really want to go down the avenue where you're having players continually shouting decisions every time a tackle comes in? It kind of rubs against the grain for me. So we'll not be doing it, but I'm hoping that we're not going to be punished for that.
We all remember what happened in the Shields, Murrayfields, and you almost scored a try, didn't you?
If I was about 3 inches taller, the story of my career.
But Ali Grieve picked it up and went over. So a fantastic day out at Murrayfield, one that will live long in the memory, of course. You've got Stuart's Melville at Scremerston, and I think once you do that, then it goes into the knockout stages if you manage to beat them at Scremerston. So there'll be a big focus on that match.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to get a day at Murrayfield for anybody is a pretty special and sometimes a once if at all opportunity. So no, we are massively focused on it. The guys are ambitious. They want to win every game. Stumel are a tough team. There's no getting away from it. we kind of thought we had them in the league, and then we let it slip. I'd like to think we're working hard on just moving away from those compounding errors. If it wasn't for that, then absolutely we'd be in the mix. So look, we know it'll be a tough game, but yeah, we're 100% targeting that, and we're not thinking, oh, we'll rest boys. We're full on, and if we were lucky enough to get a day out there, then yeah, all the better.
Well, look, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for all your contributions. Of course, you are a bit isolated, as we said, but we never forget Berwick. We've got a soft spot for you all, of course, down Scremiston Way, and we wish you the best for the rest of the season.
No, thanks for that, Stuart. We always appreciate the support. Thank you.